Hi folks, Scott Lundteigen here, and as you can see I'm driving, and I just spent some time in Edmonton doing a little bit of a TV show here. I did an interview with anchor and reporter Angelika Goronsky, and she's with Shaw TV up here in Edmonton. She had some questions for me relative to credit cards. And what I'm going to talk about with you here today, and now, just so that you know, I'm on my way back to Calgary, and I'm taking it easy. That's why you see me a cash here. I'm not wearing my suit right now, and I'm going to be driving on the way back. And don't worry about my drive here. It's an easy drive. I'm on the highway, and it's very easy for me to do this. I've done it 1,000 times. I could do it in my sleep. As a matter of fact, it's so boring that if I wasn't talking to you right now, I probably would be sleeping. But I get down there just as safe. In any event, I want to talk to you today about a very serious topic that there is some misconceptions about out there in the marketplace. I was talking to a couple of clients of mine here recently, and they were saying that they weren't so sure that they wanted to consolidate their debts by way of a mortgage, and I asked them why. And they said, well, you know, times are such that, well, I don't think I will, but I might be losing my job. There's a possibility. And if I lose my job, I won't have enough money to make the payments on all my debts. And I know all my payments are high right now, but if I take those debts and I secure them against my property, and then I can't make my payments, well, then they can come after my property. So I think what I'm going to do is just keep my property secure and keep them away from those nasty other creditors like credit card companies and lines of credit with banks and so on. Those are unsecured types of debts. Well, I have to tell them that they were wrong, and that what happens is if the payments on the credit cards are not made, then several things can happen. One, first of all, you get phone calls from collectors or from the creditors themselves. Then you get the phone calls from the collectors. And if you still don't make payments with them, then what's going to happen is they're going to go to court and get a judgment against you. At least they can. Not necessarily, but they can. So if they get the judgment against you, guess what they can do at that point in time? They can register it against the title of your property. Now, what does that mean? What that means is that, first of all, if you were to sell the property, you'd have to pay them out. It's sitting on the title, and it's registered like a mortgage, and it's not going anywhere until it's paid out. It requires the signature of the creditor in order to take it off the title. So if you're going to be selling that, transferring that property to somebody new, the new person's lawyer is going to make sure that title is clear. That's their job. So they're going to want to make sure that title is clear, and they'll see that on there, and they'll make sure you pay it so that it's not existing against the title anymore. Now, the second thing is if you were to get financing. If you were to refinance for whatever reason, take some money, some equity out of the property, then that thing is sitting there and you would have to pay that off at that time. So you'd make a phone call and you'd say, hey, I'd like to pay this thing off. How much do I owe? And also, there's no negotiation on those ones. If they have 100% security and they know you're selling the property, or trying to get new financing for whatever you need to do, they're not going to settle for anything less than what's owing on them, including interest that's been building up. So you could owe quite a substantial amount of money on any particular debt, and it would have to be paid out in full. If you're going to sell the property, you get financing against it. But let's say that you don't do either one of those two things. All right, so you're not going to get financing, you're not going to get to sell the property, but you still can't make the payments on the credit cards, or you're not going to make a payment, so you're not going to make arrangements to discharge it off the title of the property. Well, what they're going to do, or what they can do, is they can start foreclosure action. And in Alberta here, it's 1 year. If it's been on the title of your property, if they get a judgment against you and they register against the title of your property and you haven't dealt with it within 1 year, at the end of the year, they can effect foreclosure against you. Just as if it was a regular mortgage, they can do that. So, in fact, for those people out there, and maybe you're one of them, thinking that I don't want to secure my debts against the title of my property because I won't be protecting my property that way. I'll be exposing it. Well, That's the news. They can get it, and they can secure it against your property, and eventually foreclose. Now, what happens is, if you do that, if you find out down the road that, okay, they're coming after you, and you can't put up with the phone calls anymore, then you decide at that point in time that you'll register against the title of the property. Because the way lenders are acting these days, and in light of what's going on down in the U.S. and then around the world and in Canada too, there's problems, economic problems all over the place. Lenders are pulling back on their financing. They're making it more and more difficult to get financing. And what's more is the finance companies, these are our subprime lenders, they have pulled out. There are about 3 major ones and 4 major ones in Canada, and all